Good evening and welcome back to Caped Crusader Chris. As always, I am Caped Crusader Chris, and today is an absolutely special day for our Batman fandom, and that is because today is Batman Day. Today is the day that we celebrate this iconic character. We celebrate the comics, the movies, the video games, the music, the TV show, the everything in between regarding Batman. And as someone who absolutely loves this character, I even have my own YouTube channel dedicated to this character. What better way to celebrate Batman than reading issue number one and giving my review for Batman 2025? So, um, right here, I'm gonna go through panels that I loved, go through character arcs, character development, the way that Batman, Bruce Wayne is operating, and the way that Gotham City is operating. Um, so this is special to me for me because I've never actually been launched on a first issue for the main continuity for Batman. This is only the fourth time that this has happened, and I am excited to be part of this journey with the Caped Crusader. But let's go ahead and get into it. So first off, I just want to say shout out to Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez for bringing this series to fruition. Right? Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Matt Fraction, to me, one of the absolute best writers working right now. He's best known for me the Hawkeye series that he did years ago. And this is his second time writing for DC. His first time he wrote for Jimmy Olsen a while back. So for him to be writing for the big dog, Batman himself, I think that's absolutely incredible. And there's no one better than Jorge Jimenez. He's been on Batman for a few years now. Him and Dan Mora to me are the top two over at DC, and it's no surprise that he's brought on to this series because I think Fraction and Jimenez are gonna absolutely wreak havoc on the industry when it comes to this run. Um, and congratulations to these two and to DC because it was announced, I think, yesterday that they sold over 500,000 copies just in a week of this being out. So that's absolutely incredible. All right, let's go ahead and get into issue one itself. So this is called Batman Vast Colors in the Dark. I don't know if it's going to be the traditional six issue arc for the first story that he's going to be telling Fraction, um, but we shall see. And Vast Colors in the Dark, I love this title because you have the Dark Knight, and a lot of this story takes place during the daytime. And I just noticed you see him flying towards the daytime. The night is behind him. Of course, it's the Dark Knight, Knight, Knigth, and he is going to be working during the night itself, of course. So I like that issue one is kind of a change of pace from where we normally see the Cape Crusader. So we're introduced to uh, Commissioner, Detective, Mayor, Beat Cop Gordon. And I love this for him because he's no longer commissioner. We'll get into who's commissioner a little later, a little corrupted, I'd say. But I think it's interesting that we're going to be having a beat cop, Gordon, who is this seasoned, roaming the streets because I think you need someone who cares for the city. You need someone who's going to go out of the way and protect this city, whether that means from the top of being the mayor or all the way to a cop who's first on the scene. Right here, he's with his fellow officer, his partner. They're just drinking a cup of Joe during this hot heat wave. And no, what better way to spend your time at Gotham than them drinking coffee? Oh yeah, the villains that live there. Killer Croc, Waylon Jennings. Um, he is an interesting first choice for me to be the starting villain for this series because traditionally, of course, what Fraction and Jimenez are doing are trying to break tradition and add to it, of course. I think for me, I would start off with a character that's Riddler or someone that is more like a Black Mask or someone of the types of, you know, Hugo Strange. I don't know. Someone who's going to go toe to toe with Batman emotionally, someone who's going to go toe to toe with him detective wise and give him a challenge. And I was proven instantly wrong because I love the fact that it is Killer Croc because at the end of this issue, It brings out my absolute favorite side of Batman, and that's the compassionate side. And of course, we'll get into how that's portrayed in this. So we get our first look at the Cape Crusader himself donning the blue, gray, and yellow bat suit. And I love that this is the suit that they're going with because when I think of these colors, like a lot of you, we probably think of the 70s whenever he was slowly going into a darker tone going into the 80s. And you think of like Adam West who donned these colors. And so to have Jimenez be able to have this version with this new bat symbol and everything. This is how you do it in 2025. Of course, we've seen him wear these colors even recently, of course. But I love the fact that this is the suit that they're going with for the main continuity line, and I think it's wonderful. So we get introduced to the doctor over at Arkham Tower. I forget her name. I'll remember later because I'll find it a little later. But she is taking care of Killer Croc, Waylon Jennings, and I've been saying Waylon Jennings. I'm thinking of the singer, Waylon Jones. I am so sorry. I'm thinking of the singer Waylon Jennings. Oh man, so silly I am. Um, uh, Dr. Zeller. So she's taking care of Killer Croc. And Batman, who's had many run-ins with this character, with this villain, she she sees the compassionate side of Killer Croc, and Batman sees the vicious side of Killer Croc. And that's essentially the premise of this first arc. You know, you have Batman who's going to go after Killer Croc, who has this history of absolutely fighting for his life against this character. And then you have Dr. Zeller, who is taking care of Waylon in a compassionate point of view. And Batman, in the ways that he's stuck in, understandably, he is very hesitant to sort of give into this idea that people change, that someone like Killer Croc can change. And for it being the first issue arc, um, I love this take, and I love the way that Fraction sort of ropes you into the idea that Killer Croc is just an absolute monster, which of course he can be, in which he is at times, majority of the time. But it's up to Batman to find that compassionate side through the history that he's had with Killer Croc. So right here we see our first look at this beautiful, beautiful Gotham City with the sun setting, and a couple of things. Of course, in classic Batman fashion, there's little pieces of media playing, and they're all talking about the chaos that's erupting in the city, and basically how the citizens of Gotham should be terrified. Understandably so. But when you have someone like Batman who's trying to take care of your city, you would have some confidence in him. And what I love that this issue is doing off the bat is that every time there's a new tech that's introduced, there's a little text box that pops up and it just gives you a breakdown of what he's using. So for right here, he's using the Batwing, a low altitude, low opening flight suit tight. I'm not gonna pronounce that. Weave a glide ratio of 5 to 1. So essentially, what this means is that he has access to great technology. And of course, you have Batman, who his number one tool is his mind, his determination, his grit, his will. But when you combine all that together with cutting edge technology, it just makes him an even greater force. So I love that Fraction is doing these to sort of illustrate the idea that every time we're introduced to new technology, even technology that we've seen, a Batwing, of course, that's very traditional. We're gonna have a breakdown of what he's using, and I love that they're doing that. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have Commissioner Gordon, we have Commissioner Savage. So, if you're not familiar with this character, if you've seen Batman 2022, which I'm assuming you have, you know that this in the top right corner, or somewhere over here, excuse me, uh, that he is a very corrupt commissioner. He was portrayed that way in 2022 Batman, and he is that way in the comics. And um, he gives off energy that he of corruption, that this city should be essentially afraid of him, and that he's ruling with an iron fist of being the commissioner of the police force. And of course, in classic Batman fashion, you have these cops questioning whether or not they should trust him. And Commissioner Savage is saying his time will come, his time is up, we have his number. And that's essentially all that we have with him. He's introducing his own corporate, um, police force. That's always a good idea, right? Okay. Now, this is absolutely badass. This is our first look at the brand new Batmobile. Um, And off the rip, two things that I want to note, put out there. Blue is like the main color palette of this issue, and I'm assuming of this series so far. And I love that. I love that this Batmobile stands out. It really does stand out because whenever you have traditional Batmobiles, it's the yellow lights, headlights, all black, sleek, which this is all black. But the hints of blue really makes it stand out, and I love that. And of course, the first thing I think of is the 2022 Batman Batmobile, where it's more like a hot rod muscle car, not like a hot rod, but like a muscle car with amazing tech specs. Right here, we get introduced to our AI Alfred, and this is very interesting because Alfred is no longer around, but he still is around, and that is AI form. And he's just as witty and helping as he always has been. Um, and right here, it's just him and Batman driving around Gotham looking for the location of Killer Croc, and essentially, um, Alfred is just asking him if he thinks people can change because that is. Oh no, no, that's later on. Excuse me, I am sorry. But yeah, AI Alfred, interesting, pretty fun. All right, so we get introduced to these two women who are running through a park, who are being chased down by a bunch of goons. They're harassing the hell out of them, and I am scared for them. But something very heroic happens, and that is because Batman pulls up and literally hits these dudes with his car in classic Batman fashion. And what better way to beat up crime than using your car? Right here, he gives a nasty left hook to one of the goons, puts the other goon in a headlock, kicks another guy in the head, and he saves these women from being God knows what awful things would have happened to them. And this is what you're seeing right now is the only physical fight we see Batman in this whole issue, and I love that. That's what I'm saying. Killer Croc would not have been my first choice because you want someone who I assume would give him more of a detective approach, but him using his fist was like the least interesting thing in this issue, and that's always a good thing to me. So right here we get into his compassionate side, and how he apologizes to these women that he wasn't there sooner. He says that he disagrees with the police force because the police force don't roam, they don't patrol this park, and there's a lot of crime in this park, and that he disagrees with that. He says that he called the ambulance, that they need trauma and medical care, um, and that he's gonna have his Batmobile roam and watch them while the EMTs are on the way. And right here we get our next little pop up, the VOCom or the VOCom. Basically, it's just tracking and it's voice automated, and it's going to take care of these women while Batman goes and continue his investigation for Killer Croc. And this, like I said, this what we just saw was the only physical fight that he gets in this issue, and him saving these women, it was just another example of the heroic of Batman. So let's go ahead and move into sort of the final arc of this story, what we're all leading up to. So we see Batman, he sees this butterfly exhibit that's been broken into. And earlier, uh, Dr. Zeller mentioned that Wayland has sort of, digressed into a more childlike uh, creature or being because he is shedding. And what the theory is that he's shedding inside and out, and he's changing. His mind is altering. He's becoming more childlike. Um, so a little fun little quip from Alfred where Batman sees a giant opening in the building and he says, "Oh, that's where Killer Croc is." And Alfred's like, "Oh, you're a great detective." But that's pretty funny. Next, we see that there's a security guard and a mother and a daughter who are stuck at the exhibit and they're trying to figure out what to do. Obviously, they are scared, and the little girl is absolutely terrified. Batman goes up from behind the security guard, covers his mouth, takes his gun, and tells him the gun is scaring the child, and she's already scared enough of this crocodile. So I'm gonna take your gun from you. I'm gonna put it to the side, and I want you to take these two to safety and take yourself to safety as well. Um, and of course, it is the not only is Batman incredibly smart when it comes to detective work and technology, but he's emotionally smart. He recognizes what's triggering someone's fear, what's triggering someone's, anxiety or anything like that. He knows how to handle those situations really well. All right, right here we get the Bat Gauntlets. This is what he's going to use to fight Killer Croc. I can't really read what it says, but I'm assuming it's a high voltage. Oh, it's like a voltage, basically electrifying power gloves. And that's what he's going to use to fight the Killer Croc. Are you ready for the big fight? Because that's not what we get, of course. Come on, Croc, let's get this over with. And you see Croc sort of like um, acting very childlike. He's very naive. He doesn't know what's going on. At the bottom were two um, panels that were included a little bit before this, but beautiful, beautiful artwork by Jimenez. Absolutely love this design of Killer Croc. How his teeth are sort of coming outward, and they're just overlapping each other, and they're going outward. Where how some that's how some crocodiles their mouths basically their teeth are facing straight, and I love that this is the look that they're going for. And let's get further into this. So Batman is there to fight Killer Croc, and Killer Croc's not responding to him. He's responding, but not in a violent manner. And Alfred raises the question that of what Dr. Zeller said, that people can change, and maybe he's changed into more childlike, and you should approach him in a childlike, don't approach him in a violent manner. Approach him as if he's a child. Um, and these next few pages are absolutely incredible, and what fraction and the dialogue that he has between Killer Croc and Batman is special to me. So right here you have Batman remove his cowl, reveal his face to Killer Croc. He's Bruce Banner. Oh, not Bruce Banner, Bruce Wayne. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, silly me. But they're just having a conversation. Batman says, I used to have one of these in my home, and Killer Croc's like, big home. And Bruce is like, yes, it was a big home. And no, Killer Croc is using I am bad. He's using simple terms to describe himself. Killer Croc is scared. Killer Croc doesn't know what's going on, and he's referring to himself as a bad thing because he's confused. And this next line hit him head like me up there, and Bruce is like the crown, referring to yourself as a king. Killer Croc, no, mean, bad, scary, hungry. Killer Croc. This is very, very moving, simple dialogue because Killer Croc sees himself as something that's ugly, scary, mean, bad, hungry, all these things, and he's not the traditional Killer Croc that we know. He's very childlike. He has the mind of a child right now. And I love that Bruce is talking him down. Not necessarily talking him down because he was going to do violent manners, but sort of just like gauging the emotional state that he's in at that moment. And the resolution to this encounter is Dr. Zeller shows up, approaches him, tells him, let's go back home. And, Waylon is sort of like, I want to go home. I want to stay safe. Let's go home. And this interaction made me sad, but also made me chuckle because um, Killer Croc asks him, "Who's gonna help you?" Batman responds, "My head is fine. I do not need help." Killer Croc responds simply with, "If you say so." And that "if you say so" is so many levels to that because even someone childlike like Waylon can identify that a man in a bat suit, you know, roaming the city, you know, in the real world, that would be perceived as someone who doesn't probably have his screws tightened, unfortunately. And he recognizes that Killer Croc's someone who's very childlike. So Batman himself sort of like you could tell that he doesn't take it wrong, of course. I would take it more so as, compassionate. You see someone who perceives himself as a monster even have compassion for you. And the end of the story, we end up at Pennyworth Manor, of course, dedicated to Alfred. And I smiled at this because instead of having a giant dinosaur in his bat caves, he has a little baby, miniature dinosaur on a shelf, and that's like his trophy collection. And he kind of mutters like, "Huh, some trophy right here, right?" And he gets a comm asking him if they're friends in this, if they're cops that they can trust, and boom, we get our first look at Robin. uh Absolutely love that. So issue 2, the cover has Batman and Robin. So curious to see. I'm sure that's going to start off right here. We're going to pick up where Robin's been this time. And yeah, that is issue 1 of Batman 2025 by Fraction and Jimenez. So, a couple of things I want to touch on before I wrap up is what I love probably most is the compassion that Batman shows. You know, right here he's sitting with Killer Croc. He's having a conversation with him. He's telling him like you're not a monster. You don't perceive yourself as a monster. I came here to beat you up, but I'm not going to beat you up. Obviously, he doesn't say all that, but that's what's being portrayed. Another thing that I love is that, this Batmobile, absolutely badass. I love the blue headlights. I love that Alfred is still, even in the form of AI, he still cracks jokes to Batman, to Bruce Wayne. The suit, I love it. Dr. Zeller, I hope we get more of her going forward. She seemed like a very compassionate, perspective character that's challenged Batman whenever people are afraid to even make eye contact with him. She challenged him, and I'm curious to see where that goes going forward. If we're going to see her in future issues, which I'm assuming we will, like I mentioned. Right here, where is it? Where is it? The technology little pop-ups where we get a breakdown of exactly what he's using. Popped up a few times right there. The gauntlet right here. Um, the the VOCom with the Batmobile. I think there was another one. I don't know if I did or didn't. I don't know. Um, and I think my favorite moment of the ending is when he looks at this little dinosaur. He compares it to what he used to have, and now he has this little figure. It's sort of symbolically where Batman's at. Not a smaller figure, but he needs to approach things in a different manner, in which he did with Killer Croc. So, first issue, absolutely loved it. I love where we're going with this character. I love where we're going with the story of Batman, the supporting characters like Robin, Gordon, Zeller. So, we shall see where things continue from there. Um, Check this out, guys. Absolutely love this issue, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. I hope you read this issue, you continue with issue 2, 3. I already have mine ordered. And happy Batman Day, of course. So that is all that I have. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel and it helps support a fellow Batman fan. So, As always, guys, I'm Caped Crusader Chris. Catch y'all next time. Peace.